Michael Buckley is really a wonderful author. He's been writing books for a long time, and he really has quite a way with describing situations. Uh, this last Sunday, I read an article in the New York Times Book Review written by Adam Gopnik. I don't know if anybody here has read that, but he was comparing two fantasy books, not one of Michael's. And one book was very harsh, with a lot of really horrible, terrible battles and so forth. And there wasn't any lightness to it. And he described that some of the best fantasy series always have some kind of humor or something to make it light. Even Harry Potter has that. And he thought it was disappointing that this book didn't do that in any way. And then the other book that he was comparing was like a series of jokes, all about a kingdom and a castle. And he said it got very tedious because there wasn't any real plot or any real tension there. And I think that because Michael's books are so wonderful because he has that great balance between the two. He has humorous situations. His fairy tale characters live in the modern world and they have modern jobs, and it's very funny, and the situations are often very funny. But you find yourself really cheering for Daphne and Sabrina, and now Granny Relda is in one of these mirrors, these evil mirrors, and she has to get out. I just think he has this wonderful balance, and because he has this balance, his series has really lasted. We continue to have fans of his buy his books, and I think that they will last for a very long time.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I want to give a round of applause to Politics and Prose. Literally, an amazing bookstore, and they have been great fans and supporters and cheerleaders of mine for a long time, and I really do appreciate it. Thanks for coming on this ride with me. Folks, my name is Mike, and I write books for a living. And yeah, I'm gonna wait for the B&O Railroad to pass here. I hope. Oh my goodness! I hope someone is getting to pass go and collect $200. It's the longest train ever. It's the Polar Express. All right, well, it's always something. It's always a train. As I was saying, I write books. I write two different series. One is called The Sisters Grimm, and I write another one called Nerds. And I have a cartoon on the Cartoon Network called Robotomy. And I thought I would tell you a bit about those things, but first I thought I would tell you about how I became a writer. It's a very exciting story. It has ninjas in it. It doesn't. I just want you to like me. There's a lot of competition at this festival. I was born in Akron, Ohio, and I don't know if anyone here has ever been to Akron, Ohio, but it is the most boring place in the whole world. The only exciting thing that ever happened there was we invented the zipper. Yeah. Give it up for the zipper. We also have a race called the Soapbox Derby. And this is a race where we take a small child, put him in a box, and shove him down a steep hill. So Akron is fun on that day. Nothing ever really happened to me very exciting in Akron, and that's very sad. But when I was 16, I got to meet a very famous comedian named Eddie Murphy. And Eddie said something really nice to me. He said he thought I was funny, and he said that he thought I should be a stand-up comedian myself. And so I went to all the comedy clubs in Akron, which was one. And I said, I want to be a comedian. And they said, kid, you got to be 18 to be a comedian. How old are you? And I said, I am 18. And they believed it because they were dumb. And so I started doing stand-up. I did it well into my adult age, as well into a period when I should have given it up. But I did get to travel. I toured with famous comedians before. I opened up for Jon Stewart once, and This guy named Carrot Top? Wow. Yeah. Yeah. He's as weird as he looks. When I also went to college, I went to this school called Ohio University, which is a little school in southern Ohio. If you know football, you know Ohio State University. I'm not talking about that school. If you're into competitive checkers, you know where I went to college. We didn't have any good sports teams, but we did have a TV station. Our school actually owned a local cable company, and they gave us a TV channel. So that was really one of the first places I got to learn how to write characters. I wrote a sitcom. I worked on a very mushy soap opera where people kissed all the time on the lips. Gross. And I also I wrote for my school newspaper and was in a punk rock band. I was the lead singer and I had really long hair. It went down to about here. I was hot. Yeah. I was very hot. No, I wasn't. I was about to graduate. A professor of mine, a man named Mel Hellitzer, who is a sort of a kind of a well-known comedy writer in his own right. He wrote on a bunch of shows in the dawn of television, like Our Show of Shows, and he worked with Woody Allen and the Smothers Brothers. And he said, you know, I could help you get an internship if you want it. And I said, fine, where's it at? And he said, it's in New York City, and it's on a show called The Late Show with David Letterman. So he helped me pull some strings, and before I knew it, I was in a car driving to New York City to be an intern for David. And the thing is I didn't know anybody in New York City. I didn't even have a place to live when I got there. I loaded all of my stuff into an office in the basement of the Ed Sullivan Theater that someone told me was where they kept the Beatles. And that was where I kept my underwear. And then I went to work that day. At the end of the day, I walked up to the YMCA, which is on 69th Street and Central Park East, and I checked in. And I don't know if anyone has ever stayed in a YMCA. It is not like the song at all. A lot of the people in that band were staying there. A lot of sailors, a lot of motorcycle men. I think you get the idea. I stayed at the YMCA for 6 weeks, and it was the worst thing that ever happened to me. And I would, but I knew that this was the opportunity of a lifetime, and I stuck with it. And I would look out the window of my little tiny space at the Y, and I could see Central Park. And I thought, as long as I can look out a window and see Central Park instead of being in Central Park looking in a window, I am doing all right. I'm going to stay. After I worked for him for a little while, I went to work for a little company that made documentaries for the Discovery Channel. You guys probably know the Discovery Channel. That's the channel where there's a man standing next to a wild animal, and he is poking that animal with a stick, and then the animal eats his face. That's what you discover on the Discovery Channel. I worked on a couple documentaries for them. One was about the Mole People, who are a group of homeless people who live deep inside the New York City subway system. And I did another one about sideshow performers. So I got to hang out with sword swallowers and tattooed men and bearded ladies. And I met a bearded lady. She had a beard that went down to here. Yeah, she was my girlfriend for a while. What's so funny about that? You don't think I can get a bearded lady? I could totally get a bearded lady. I'm hot. After that, what else did I do? I went to work for a little channel the kids know as the educational channel. Everybody else calls it MTV. Yes, all the world's wisdom is on MTV, kids. The things I've learned from the Jersey Shore. Like how to become orange. Awesome. And then I did a little bit of work for VH1, and then finally wound up with a development deal at a company called Nickelodeon. and working on my own cartoon that never actually wound up on the air. But that was sort of the moment when I was like, wow, I really, I really like writing for kids. And those are one of those moments that I often call duh moments. You know, those like it always reminds me of the scene in the Blues Brothers where Jake goes into the church and the light of God shines down on him, and he's like, I understand. And that's sort of what happened to me. And so I came up with this idea called the Sisters Grimm, and I was working it out as a TV show first, thinking that was what my background was. And somebody much smarter than me said, that is not a TV show, that is a book. Now, I had never tried to write a book. I was pretty sure that I couldn't write a book because I once had a teacher tell me that I would never be a writer because I couldn't spell. And this woman is dead now. And if you ask me, it was natural causes. But I took that seriously, and I really thought that was the Bible's truth. When a grown-up tells you something like that, you think it's serious. Kids always assume parents know what they're talking about. Kids, they don't. They sometimes know less than you. And in this situation, I was lucky enough to have a bunch of people who were like, you really need to write this book. We're going to help you. You don't have to know how to spell. Your editor needs to know how to spell. And then that was like 8 years ago. I have the worst aspiring writer story ever. If you are trying to write a book, please put your hands where I can see them, just so that there are no rocks or stones in them. But I did not have one of those rooms where I could wallpaper my rejection letters. It happened super fast. I didn't even have a whole book. Now I'm just rubbing it in. There were like 30 pages and an outline, and well, my editors told me that they actually read it because they could finish it on the subway on the way home from work. And 2 weeks after I turned it in, I had 3 offers, and got to pick my publisher and my editor and the marketing team. Yeah, I know. I hate me too. And that is a horrible story. But that was 8 years ago, and here we are with the 9th and final Sisters Grimm book. Yay! Some people, I hope you're cheering because it's a new book and not the last book. But, the funny thing about the Sisters Grimm is my editors wanted me to do 3 books. They offered me a 3-book deal in the beginning, which I thought, wow, I'll never finish that. And I said, that's fine. I'll write 3 books as long as you are prepared to see a to be continued at the end of that 3rd book. And they were like, yeah. And then it was there. And they were forced to sign for another 3 books. And at the end of the 6th book, there it was again, to be continued. And then finally they were like, how many of these are there? And I was like, there's 9. I told you that in the proposal. So, and I was lucky enough to have a team of editors and art directors and salespeople and publicists and then like an army of independent bookstores and librarians and teachers who all just really got on board with this book that in a way that I never could have expected. I mean, it's lots of fart jokes and boogers and stuff like that if you don't know the books. But somehow America has embraced this. I congratulate you. It's about time we started to see ourselves for who we are. Yay, America. But with that as well, being that this is the last book, it's kind of hard for me to say goodbye. Sabrina and Daphne are like my kids in a way. It's very strange to look at that book and realize that I'm not going back to Ferryport Landing, and I'm not going to hang out with the girls, and I'm not going to find out what happens. I mean, it's just, I have to really walk away from it. It's sort of like sending your kids to college. You know that they'll call, but it'll be for money. And so I'm looking forward to writing some other things, but I just am so honored and humbled by the response this book is getting. It wound up on 4 bestseller lists the first week. We went into a second printing on the 3rd day it was out. And it's nice to see the girls going out with a bang, because I had always hoped that would be it. The other series I write is called Nerds. It's about nerdy secret agents who have a secret headquarters in the basement of their elementary school. And each one of them has a superpower, which some people might consider a weakness, but that's actually their strength. So one kid has braces, and they are alive. They're like transformers, so he can turn them into things. Like if he needs a motorcycle will come out of his mouth. If there's a girl who is allergic to everything that is inspired by a real girlfriend I had. She was allergic to nuts and dairy and wheat and soy and walking around and the sun and air. And in the book, the character is allergic to other things like liars. So if somebody's lying to her, she gets itchy, and if somebody's gonna punch her in their face, her hands swell up, and so she's sort of got like psychic powers. She's sort of like an itchy Professor X from the X-Men, and I've been having a lot of fun with this series. I wasn't sure. Hey, look, it's Tom Engelberger, star of the Origami Yoda books. Woohoo! Check him out. He's so hot. I love Tom. Tom and I have the same editor. The only difference is that my editor calls Tom back. That's the difference. But Nerds is doing really well. The 4th book will be out in the fall. And then in the fall, I also have this awesome thing I'm really excited about. I'm doing a picture book for kids who are like 3 to 5, and it's called Kel Gilligan's Daredevil Stunt Show. And it's inspired by the awesome Evel Knievel. Do you guys know Evel Knievel? Some of the kids probably do not know who that is. That makes me feel sad and old. But Evel Knievel, when I was a kid, was the closest thing to Superman that we had. He had a motorcycle, and he used to jump over the Grand Canyon with it, and he would jump over a bunch of buses full of nuns and orphans, and his claim to fame was that he had broken every bone in his body, and I thought that was awesome. But when I got older, I realized that's sort of a lousy claim to fame for a stuntman. Like his claim should have been, I have never broken a bone. I'm that good. So when I was writing the book, I went in and found these old ABC World of Sports tapes, and watched some of his stunts, and I realized that Evel Knievel never actually accomplished any of the stunts. And that's not even a joke. It's true. He never actually did it. He would slam into the canyon wall, and he'd smash on top of the bus, and he'd fall on the ground and just skid for half a mile. He was awesome. And really, like the most exciting person ever. So when I came up with this idea for Kel Gilligan. I wanted to do like a 4-year-old Evel Knievel. But he doesn't jump over anything on his tricycle. He does 4-year-old stunts, like he eats broccoli, and he goes to the bathroom all by himself, and he lets his mom finish a phone conversation. And yes, death-defying stuff. So I hope that you guys will look for that. I'm super excited about it. The artist is a guy named Dan Santat, who is an amazing illustrator and writer, and has a show on Disney Channel called The Replacements. And it's just a sort of a new direction for me, and I'm super excited about it. So, I've been on tour, and for a little while here. I've been all over Washington, D.C. I was in L.A. They sent me to Hawaii, all these fun places. But you can sort of imagine, I'm kind of sick of talking about myself. So do you guys have any questions or anything that to give me a break? Yes. Is there going to be a Sisters Grimm movie? At the yeah. Well, we have two of the three major things that you need. We have an amazing script. We have an amazing producer. All we need is a check for $100 million. And once we figured out that little detail, we'll get started on it. I've wanted to make a Sisters Grimm movie for a while. There's a lot of interest. I definitely get about 500 letters a week with from little girls who swear they look exactly like Sabrina. And but at the moment, we don't have a deal in place. We do have a deal in place for the Nerds movie, which is going to be a 3D animated rock opera. Really, it is. The producer of the film made a movie a couple years ago called Romeo and Juliet. His name is Sir Elton John. And he's going to produce it, and he's going to write some original music for it. So it is really going to be a rock opera, and they're already working on the Broadway show. So there's $150 down the toilet for you if you go to see that. Go see The Lion King instead, folks. Yes. Yes. You're hungry almost? Is that what you said? I know. I feel you, brother. I am hungry too. Yeah. Who's my favorite character in the Sisters Grimm? I have to say it's probably Prince Charming, and this is the character I didn't even think I wanted to write. I was like, every time there's a fairy tale thing, they always center it on Prince Charming, and I just thought he was kind of tired. But as I wrote about him, he got really complicated, and I realized that what I was writing wasn't this prince. I was writing about myself when I was 17. See, Prince Charming thinks that he's supposed to be a certain way. He thinks he's a hero. He thinks he's supposed to save the damsel in distress. And then he's like totally in love with this girl who does not want those things from him. Like, she can take care of herself. She knows how to fight. And she does not want anyone rescuing her. And that's sort of how I was at 17. I thought I knew what the girls that I liked wanted, and I was so wrong. So that's, I think, probably my favorite character to write. Yes. What influenced me to be an author? J.K. Rowling's Payday. You get honesty from me, folks. You know what? I always had a notebook when I was a kid, and I always wrote little stories in it, and I never really showed it to anybody. But I wanted to be a writer, and I ingested stories at a rabid pace, and I loved books and movies and television shows, and I guess I just always wanted to be a writer. It took me a long time to get the courage to actually give it a try. Yes. Oh, what's the fourth Nerds book about? So you don't have to buy it. Smart. It's called The Villain Virus, and the main character is Flinch, who's the hyperactive secret agent. And Flinch is immune to this virus that is sweeping the globe, and this virus makes people want to take over the world. So everybody is trying to take over the world, and they're all, the virus makes them super smart, so they all start building doomsday devices. And then, like, he's the only one that's immune. Even the rest of the nerds start doing it. So, like, when Weezer, and they all change their names when they get to be a supervillain, they automatically change their name to a supervillain name. So, Weezer becomes the asthmatic assassin, so to save the world, Flinch has to get to the source of the virus, which is inside the head of Heathcliff Hodges, which is the book's main villain. And to do that, he miniaturizes himself and gets injected into Heathcliff's body, and he does sort of the amazing journey through his body. There was a movie when I was a kid called Inner Space, which is a terrible movie, but with a great premise, and I always thought it would be fun to do it in a kid's book. Way back there. My favorite fairy tale is Pinocchio, and probably not for the reasons you guys suspect. When I was a kid, I saw Pinocchio in the movie theater, and I just thought, well, he gets into a lot of trouble, but it's really not his fault sometimes, and it's just always a misunderstanding, and he means well, but he's not like that in the book. In the book, he's a jerk. In the book, he has that same cricket friend that sings and dances, but he kills the cricket with a hammer on page 5. Yeah. So I just love it because it is so wildly different than what I grew up with, and to be honest, it's probably 1,000,000 times funnier than that movie. Yeah. Was it hard to write from the perspective of girls? You know what? I get that question a lot, as if I'm some sort of manly man that you just really can't deal with. I mean, look at my slender wrists here, folks. I don't really know where it came from. I mean, I have sisters, but I just sort of wrote it as. They want, the characters want the same things that boy characters want. It's just they have longer hair. That's really sort of how I treated it. I thought that they were, the little girls and little boys are in essence pretty much the same, and they have certain interests that, like princesses and things and unicorns and stuff. But for the most part, they love the same kind of stuff. They love the same kind of adventures. They think the same things are funny. It's only when they get older that people change a bit. Yes. The Grimm TV show doesn't sound all that bad. Oh, the Sisters Grimm TV show. Well, if you want to see it, it's called Grimm. It's on Friday nights. See it now before the lawsuit. I'm talking to you, NBC. Lawyer up. Yes, back there. Well, I did always plan that it would only be 9 books, and but I'm a smart guy, and I wrote myself an escape hatch at the end of book 9. So if I ever want to go back and none of the other things I write or make any money, I can just go back to the Sisters Grimm, and in the back you get a little glimpse of what Sabrina's life is like when she has a 16-year-old daughter. So you get a little bit of a vibe, and that's probably, if I were ever to go back to it, that's probably where I would start it. Yes. My favorite Sisters Grimm book is book 5. It's Magic and Other Misdemeanors. My favorite movie of all time is Back to the Future. And I wanted to write a time travel story like that. So the girls get to go into the future. They see how they turn out. They don't like it, and they decide to go back and fix it. And that was sort of the inspiration. That's probably my favorite book. Yeah. My favorite prank that Puck pulled, I like how he starts to plan their wedding. I thought that was actually really sort of funny. That would make me crazy, I think. And the vat of mayonnaise and bread and butter pickles, yeah. The mustache is also classic. I wrote some funny stuff. Yes. I'm sorry, what? Did I copy from the Brothers Grimm? Yeah, I did. I copied a lot of their stuff. No, actually, the Brothers Grimm stories are have been around for hundreds of years, and I don't know if I copied them, but I definitely used them as the launching point. Um, and I imagined what those characters would be like if they had been alive for 500 or 600 years, because that's the fun of it. I mean, I'm not the same person I was 10 years ago. Like, what would you be like if you lived for 600 years? And that was sort of the premise of the series and the direction the stories went. Yes. Where did I get the inspiration for Puck? Well, to be honest, when I started writing the series, I was using Peter Pan. And then I found out that Peter Pan had some copyright issues and we wouldn't be able to use him everywhere in the world. And I found out the story, and I didn't like... See, the thing is, when J.M. Barrie died, he created Peter Pan. He willed the books to an orphanage, and the orphanage still receives revenue from that. And I just thought, I don't want to steal from orphans and stuff like that. My grandma would cry. So my editor suggested Puck, and I knew him from A Midsummer Night's Dream, but I also knew him from a comic book called The Sandman, written by Neil Gaiman, awesome. And Puck shows up a couple times in that comic, and I thought that would be ideal. And that was a character that I thought not a lot of kids know. I can really introduce that character, and also I can have some fun with it because there's so many different versions of him throughout literature that I could really sort of take the best stuff and really run with it. So ironically, that character became I think the most popular character in the book. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, in the fourth book, the girls go to New York City and they go to in Central Park. There's this place called the Ferry, which is where all the fairies live, and it's sort of the setting of A Midsummer Night's Dream, even though the fairies have sort of turned to this mafia thing that they do, like the fairy godfathers, and I don't know why Peasbottom didn't make it into the final cut. I'm pretty sure I wrote that character in, but it might got it edited. I may have not had anything for them to do, so maybe we'll do Peasbottom Strikes Back or something like that. Yeah. Yes. Well, I didn't read all the fairy tales ever, but I read a lot of them. I had to do a lot of research. Writing is a research-intensive occupation. You have to fill your head with information and ideas if you want any of them to come out. So I definitely read a lot. There's like 33 versions of Little Red Riding Hood in French. So it was definitely a challenge. In fact, even though I'm not writing the series anymore, I find myself still reading versions that appear from time to time. Yes? If I could write another series, what would it be? It's about this kid who makes a Yoda out of origami. I would really like to hop on that gravy train. I'm working on something that is about, I don't want to spill too much because we're being videotaped and who knows where this is going. But I am working on something, and it's about people that come from the sea. So you might be able to guess what that's about. And there's some other things I'm working on, maybe an elementary school for monsters. But right now I'm just sort of enjoying not doing anything, but going around and being applauded and praised, which is good work if you can find it. How are we doing on time? We are out of time, folks. Stop. Thank you so much. I'm going to go over and sign some books. Please come over. Don't be shy.